everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversations in the Cloud. Conversations in the Cloud is a series of interactive sessions where we bring you insights from thought leaders and professionals from across teams at Extentia. On today's episode, we have one of the most brilliantly innovative leaders at Extentia. Everyone, please welcome Extentia's Chief Technical Architect, Anand Keshavan. Welcome to the show, Anand.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to have you here. All right, so we're going to start with our first question now. Could you describe your role as Chief Technical Architect at Extentia? What does a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, okay. So my job here is to actually promote technical excellence, right? Or excellence in engineering, as we call it, right? So it's an ongoing process. We can always do things better way. So I identify practices, I identify things that can be used by various teams in Extentia to provide better services for our customers. I also work with our customers directly to provide solutions to some of the harder problems they might be facing. Secondly, like you mentioned, I am actually a mentor to all the developers and technical architects and all the technical people in Extentia. So that in that role, I actually do a lot of coaching. I conduct a lot of courses, and also I do take a lot of interviews for our from freshers to very senior developers. So I participate in the hiring process. That is exactly where our engineering excellence starts.
My second question is, what are some of the challenges that come with architecting multifaceted solutions for the vast plethora of requirements that our partners have?
Now, in the recent years, we are facing problems of scale. That is, most of our solutions are of very large scale, large number of users and so on, right? That has made us adopt a lot of distributed computing models. Now, distributed computing models bring in a lot of issues with respect to testing, and generally what we say testability, to make sure how do we prove that these systems actually work correctly and work consistently over a long period of time, right? So these are the typical challenges we are facing nowadays. Plus, of course, some of the challenges are coming from the data side, which also cause the same kind of things. How do you test these AI-based or machine learning-based systems? How do you verify them? We do face challenges of maintainability because some of our customers we've had for many, many years, right? So we are maintaining code for the last 5 years or more. And as more and more people work on it, the quality of the code degrades. So we have to ensure that it doesn't, and we are able to add new people.
Thank you, Anand. Anyone who knows you knows that you set the highest possible standards for coders and developers that work with you on projects. How do you personally define excellence in engineering?
There are many facets to this excellence in engineering. One is, I'd say the main tenets that we encourage in Extentia is that your code should be maintainable. It should be readable by other people, and we have to start with the assumption that the system will last for several years and very different teams will end up contributing to the product or project, right, over the period.
Along with your day job, you're also an incredibly adept musician. What sort of role does music play in your life at the moment? And are there any similarities between the way you visualize and conceptualize a piece of music and a piece of code?
Actually, they are quite similar in some ways because we are dealing with a very few primitives. Very primitive operations. Actually, computer programming has about 3 or 4 primitive operations that we use to build very large systems. Music has about 12 notes, right? That's all we have, right? And we can create either great stuff, we can create great sounding symphonies, or we can create a lot of noise. So which is the same case with software, right? So in that sense, building, creating small blocks, stitching them together into bigger blocks. And so all these things are kind of common between the two, I would say. Music plays an important role in my life. I do spend playing some instrument or the other almost every day. Right?
For our final question of this segment, we want to know, what sort of advice would you give to young fledgling coders and developers looking to make an impact on their chosen areas?
There are a couple of things we need to, learn when we are young developers. One skill is how to read code written by other people. So early in your career, it might be a good idea for you to actually read a lot of code from the open source community, maybe even contribute a little bit, write fix some bugs or add small features, etc. So I participate in the open source community. That's one way to learn how to read code. The other point is, we need to learn to read the documentation and error messages and so on. Apart from that, my advice is that in the first 5 or 6 years of your career, just build your core programming skills, understand how programming is used to solve business problems, right? And then go on to other aspects, architecting larger systems and so on.
We're now moving on to a few fun segments in an attempt to catch the calm and collected Anand off his guard a little bit and gain an unfiltered insight into his mind. Are you ready to go, Anand?
Yeah, sure.
Forum or express?
Forum.
Beaches or mountain?
Beaches. Actually, both.
Prose or poetry?
Prose. But my son is a poet, which is a disappointment for him that I do not appreciate poetry very much.
Client visits or business trips?
Client visits. I don't like to travel.
Extentia coffee or Extentia chai?
Chai.
Chai. Okay.
I don't drink coffee. I only drink tea, actually.
Python or Node.js?
Node.js.
Okay.
I like JavaScript better than Python. Yeah.
Okay. Flutter Dart versus React Native?
Flutter Dart.
Go or Rust?
Go for regular applications, regular standard web REST API type of applications. But Rust for things that require a lot of for harder problems that require.
Okay. Deep Purple or Led Zeppelin?
Deep Purple. That's easy.
Okay. Music or lyrics?
Lyrics.
All right. Favorite Extentia office?
EPP, right? That's where the Zen left.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Favorite Extentia snack?
That's Vada Pav.
The Beatles or The Who?
The Beatles.
Favorite Extentia project manager? I know this is a tricky one, but if you do you happen to have a favorite one? So
all of them are my favorites.
All right. That's the most diplomatic answer possible. All right, brilliant. That brings us to the end of the rapid fire segment. We're now going on to our final segment of this episode of Conversations in the Cloud. We've emailed some people from across Extentia's offices who work very closely with Anand, and we've asked them to send in a few questions. Now, our first question is from someone I believe you've mentored or worked with, Chandrakant Lakhani, and he asks, how does a fresher know when he's ready for a project?
I don't know. If you just dive deep into the project and figure out whether you're ready for that. I think that's the only way. Why would you feel that you're not ready for a project once you've gone through certain levels of training and so on? You have your project managers, your tech leads who are all available for you to teach.
Chandrakant also wants to add, as a side note, he asked us to say this. He said the best thing about working with Anand is that you ask one question and he'll give you 15 more questions to add to your wealth of knowledge. So he really appreciates that about you. So he thought he'd let you know that as well.
I'm glad he thinks that. Okay, that's a good thing.
It is. All right. Now our second question is from none other than Komal Kilnani. And she asks, tell us the story about your favorite guitar. Where did you get it from? Why did you choose this particular guitar?
Oh, yeah. So there was a time when I used to play professional music, So at that time I had this Fender Stratocaster, which I used to play. Strat copy it was, not a real Fender. So I always wanted a real Strat. So I bought it off Bajao.com actually. Online I ordered. The one I would like to own is something called the ES330. It's a Gibson hollow body.
The final question from our Ask the Audience segment is from none other than our CEO, Umeed Kotawala. Now, he asks, when you encounter a generation of programmers that does not know assembly language? What punishments come to mind?
No, I think it's okay not to know assembly language. There is really no reason to go down that route unless you are building an operating system, etc. But yes, out of your own interest, it might be a good idea to learn assembly and machine language, right? Because that can help you understand your machines very well, right?
And with that, we're at the end of our show. I'd like to thank Anand for being such a wonderful guest. I'm sure everyone watching at home had a great time too. We look forward to having you on again very soon, Anand. Thank you for being here.
Thanks very much. I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad you did. And with that, we'll see you next time on another episode of Conversations in the Cloud. As always, let's continue to do more and be more.